Dominique Pelicot is on trial for sedating his wife with drugs and recruiting dozens of men to her for over 10 years.
Pelicot mass case.
There has been some kind of misunderstanding, and Gisele's husband, Dominique, has been called to come to the police station to clarify. He was caught taking upskirt pictures and videos of women in a supermarket. This must be all just a silly mistake, thought Gisele. Perhaps his phone was accidentally in camera mode, and when he was just carrying it in his hand, he must have accidentally taken pictures or videos of these women. It must truly be a mistake. They arrive at the police station, and each is taken into a different room. Gisele is obviously confused why she's being called in for questioning, but complies to support her husband. The police start to ask a series of questions. Can you please describe your husband? Gisele describes him as a caring and loving husband. She tells them that they're retired and that they moved from the Paris region to Mazan, a small town, to have a slow and relaxing life, and everything was going great. I mean, they've been together for over 50 years and are happily married. But the police continue to ask questions about their personal lives, and the air feels ominous. Then they finally say, Madame Gisele, we're going to show you some images, but please be prepared as they will be very graphic and shocking. The police lay out the images on the table, and Gisele looks through them and tries to process what's going on, but she can't. Why is she laying on her bed sleeping naked? She doesn't remember ever sleeping like that. What are all these strange naked men doing to her in her own room? In her own house? One image after another, she sees a different man doing things to her that she couldn't possibly imagine. What is happening? Gisele would later say in court that her life has crumbled to nothing. The police explained that after getting multiple complaints from women at a supermarket, the security guard apprehended Dominique and was taken to the police. His devices were confiscated, and there they found over 20,000 files of essay taking place. Dominique went as far as categorizing all the assaults by the names of the assailants. In his folder, there were thousands of images and videos of his own wife getting raped whilst she was laying unconscious. This is the story of a severely perverted man, Dominique Pelicot, who offered sex with his wife on a seedy website and filmed the abuse. For over 10 years, Dominique would use heavy sedatives to make his wife unconscious and have strange men come into their home to rape his wife. This case sent shockwaves through her own country of France and across the whole world as well. With the meticulous recordings that Dominique has made, police were able to track down most of the 72 suspects, but not all. Currently, a total of 51 men are on trial for their alleged attacks. Gisele and Dominique were happily married for over 50 years and had 3 children who are adults now. They had a seemingly normal life, and Dominique was a typical loving husband and a doting father. He looked after her, cooked for her, and was emotionally present for her. Little did she know, Dominique had a dark side that she never knew about. For over a decade, he sedated her with heavy drugs and recruited men of all backgrounds to come and rape her. He met these men on a questionable website where many seedy things took place and made a chat room called Without Her Knowledge. There was a soldier, a nurse, a journalist, a prison warden, a butcher, a lorry driver, even her neighbor, whom she would often see in town. These were men from the age of 26 to 74, and many were married and had children of their own. Throughout the trial, many of these men's wives, mothers, and sisters took the stand and said they were exceptional men. Can you believe that? Exceptional men. This just shows that you just never know. The people that these families trusted were monsters in disguise. During the trial, it came out that some of these men that Dominique had let into their homes had previous convictions for domestic violence, sexual violence, drunk driving, and the possession of drugs. 5 were accused of possessing child abuse imagery. The youngest defendant, Joan Kay, was only 22 at the time of the assault. It was found out that he missed the birth of his own child because he was busy doing something else. That's the same day he visited the Pelicots. Most of the men on trial have denied the rape charges and have said that they thought it was all a game, that they thought that Gisele was pretending to sleep. Some even said that Dominique's consent was sufficient for them. The things that are coming out of these men's mouths are just disgusting. Now, remember that the chat room where Dominique found these disgusting men was called without her knowledge. How could they even stand in court and say that Gisele knew about what was happening? Dominique at one point even found a partner or a disciple to drug each other's wives. His disciple is a 63-year-old man named Jean-Pierre, and he allegedly used the same technique to drug and rape his own wife. Jean-Pierre arranged his wife to be raped 12 times. For over a decade, Dominique found dozens and dozens of men to come and essay his wife. How could she not have known? Well, she trusted him entirely. She trusted him with her life. They were happily married for 50 years and relied on each other. They were practically growing old together. In the trial, Gisele recounted specific moments. We would have a glass of white wine together. I never found anything strange about my potatoes. He brought me ice cream to my bed, my favorite flavor, raspberry. And I thought, how lucky I am. He's a love. This is how sweet and attentive Dominique was. He cooked for her, looked after her, and showered her with love. And beneath all this facade, he was a monster. Gisele remembers waking up in her pajamas, being overly tired, and not remembering how she ended up in bed. She began to fear that she was having a neurological problems or could have Alzheimer's, and her husband willingly supported her and took her to a neurologist. She even had gynecological issues, and Dominique would go with her to the gynecologist for checkups too. She considered herself so lucky to have such a supportive husband by her side. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I find it intriguing how no doctors suspected anything out of the ordinary. Shouldn't there be any signs? The abuse didn't end with his wife. Amongst 20,000 videos and photographs, there was a file labeled "Around My Daughter, Naked." In the file, there were photos of Pelicot's only daughter, Caroline, asleep with no clothes on. The investigators also found photos of 2 daughters-in-law that were secretly taken while they were getting undressed or taking showers. During the trial, Caroline had to step outside saying that she had to vomit. She would later write a book about her experiences called "And I Stopped Calling You Daddy." Dominique Pelicot has admitted to recruiting men to rape his wife while she was sedated on drugs between 2010 and 2020. He admitted that he administered drugs to her at meal times or with ice cream he bought for her. This is what he said. "I am a rapist, like the others in this room. I am guilty and I regret everything I did. I ask you for forgiveness, even if it is unpardonable." During the trial, he would detail the traumatic childhood he had, how he was raped by a male hospital nurse at age 9, and how he was forced to participate in a gang rape at age 14. He also alleged that his father sexually abused a young girl that his family had taken in, and that his father invited other men to participate too. He tried to explain that his childhood trauma may have molded him into the person he became. If you learn about the other 51 defendants, you'll notice a similar pattern. Many of these men grew up in a traumatic environment. Nonetheless, you cannot use that as an excuse to harm others. This case has now gone global, and rightfully so. In France, victims of rape usually remain anonymous. But Madame Pelicot has opened her trial to the public and the press. She doesn't want the victims to feel shame. She wants to bring change. She wants people to know that these monsters are not always strangers. They could be your father, your brother, your husband, or your friend. She wants people to be aware about drug-facilitated essays. She wants to educate people, bring changes to the society, and most of all, for victims to not feel shame. Did you know that in France, just 14% of accusations lead to formal investigations? Not 40, 14. According to the legal expert, the French law is written in such a way that victims must comply with the stereotype of a good victim and a true rape. Does the attacker fit the profile? What is the behavior of the victim like after the assault? Was there a use of violence? Did the victim resist? Only a minority of these cases are considered true, and most don't even get investigated. Gisele says, it's not for us to feel shame. It's for them, the attackers. Gisele Pelicot has become a symbol of the fight against sexual violence in France. A verdict is expected in late December, and all the men on trial, including Dominique, could face sentences of up to 20 years in prison if convicted. What do you guys think of all this? This is considered one of the biggest cases in French law history. Everything is public. The trial, the process, the evidence, and the names. Thanks for listening, and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to learn more about other cases. Bye!